Hello and welcome to G Fun Facts Online. We think of our cities as being built on solid ground, a stable stage for our bustling lives. But what if I told you the ground beneath our feet is anything but silent? What if the constant thrum of our traffic, the rumble of our subways, and even the synchronized cheers at a football game are creating a unique seismic rhythm for every city, a fingerprint written into the very earth? And what if, sometimes, our actions don't just create a hum, but actually trigger real, measurable earthquakes? Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of urban seismology to uncover how our cities shake, rattle, and roll to a tune of our own making. For a long time, seismologists sought out the quietest places on Earth for their instruments, trying to escape the noisy interference of human activity to listen for the deep groans of tectonic plates. But a new wave of scientists is doing the exact opposite. They're planting their sensors right in the heart of our loudest, busiest cities, and they're discovering that this man-made noise isn't just interference, it's a treasure trove of data. Every city, it turns out, has a unique seismic signature, a constant symphony of micro-vibrations. Think of it like a city's own personal soundtrack. The deep, rhythmic bass line might be a passing subway train. The sharp, percussive hits are from construction sites. The steady, low-frequency drone is the endless flow of traffic on a major highway. All of this combines to create a seismic soundscape as distinctive as the city's skyline. Scientists are now learning to deconstruct this urban symphony. In Barcelona, for example, researchers can clearly distinguish the seismic waves from road traffic versus the deeper rumbles of the metro system. They can even see the seismic impact of massive cultural events. A rock concert, or a major football match, with tens of thousands of fans jumping and stomping in unison, generates measurable ground shaking that shows up clearly on seismographs. This isn't just a cool party trick. By monitoring these vibrations in real time, city officials can get a high-definition picture of the city's metabolism. They can track traffic flow, check the structural health of bridges and buildings as they vibrate, and even see how the city as a whole responds to major events. It's like having a constant pulse check on the entire urban environment. But while this constant urban hum is a fascinating phenomenon, there are times when human activity crosses a critical line, turning the hum into a roar and triggering actual earthquakes. These are called induced earthquakes. They aren't caused by the slow, grinding movement of tectonic plates, but are a direct consequence of human actions, altering the delicate balance of stress and strain in the Earth's crust. One of the most significant and well-documented causes is the injection of fluids deep underground. The oil and gas industry, for instance, often disposes of wastewater from fracking and drilling by pumping it into deep subterranean wells. This massive volume of fluid increases what's called pore pressure within the rock formations. Imagine the rocks have tiny pores and cracks. Forcing water into them at high pressure acts like a lubricant on pre-existing, dormant faults, making them far more likely to slip and cause an earthquake. A stark example of this happened in Oklahoma. Historically, it was a seismically quiet region, but with the boom in oil and gas extraction and subsequent wastewater disposal, the state transformed into one of the most seismically active zones in the entire United States, experiencing a dramatic and alarming increase in the frequency of earthquakes. Geothermal energy projects, despite being a green technology, can also have a similar effect. To generate power, these projects often pump water at high pressure into deep, hot rock to fracture it and increase its permeability. This process, known as hydraulic stimulation, can trigger small earthquakes. While most are too minor to be felt, some projects have crossed the line. In Basel, Switzerland, a geothermal project was shut down after it triggered a series of earthquakes large enough to be felt by the local population and cause minor property damage. Similarly, a project in St. Gallen also induced noticeable seismic events. It's not just about what we pump into the ground, but also what we build on top of it. The construction of massive reservoirs and dams can trigger what's known as reservoir-induced seismicity. The sheer weight of the water in a large reservoir, sometimes billions of tons, adds a huge amount of stress to the faults beneath it. At the same time, water can seep deep into the ground, increasing that same pore pressure we talked about earlier. One of the most powerful examples of this occurred at the Koyna Dam in India. After the reservoir was filled, a powerful magnitude 6.6 earthquake struck the area, an event widely attributed to the dam itself. Even mining and massive construction projects can leave a seismic footprint. Removing colossal amounts of rock from a quarry or erecting a forest of skyscrapers changes the stress balance in the crust directly below. While the seismic events this causes are typically minor, it highlights a profound truth. Our urban development has a real, physical impact on the geology we depend on. The story gets even more complicated when we consider the ground our cities are built on. The unique geology of many urban centers can act as a natural amplifier for earthquakes, whether they are natural or human-induced. Many of the world's great cities, including places like Los Angeles, Tokyo, and Mexico City, are built on soft sedimentary basins. Geologically speaking, these basins are like giant bowls filled with jelly. When seismic waves from an earthquake enter these basins, they get trapped and bounce around, amplifying their intensity significantly. The ground shaking in these areas can be much stronger than on solid bedrock just a few miles away. Mexico City is the textbook case for this terrifying phenomenon. It's built on the soft, waterlogged sediments of an ancient lake bed. During the devastating 1985 earthquake, whose epicenter was hundreds of miles away, the seismic waves were amplified by up to 5 times as they passed through the city's basin. This amplification led to the catastrophic collapse of hundreds of buildings that might have otherwise survived. But it's not just the ground. The city itself can participate in its own shaking. The grid-like layout of modern cities, packed with tall buildings, can create a bizarre effect called site-city interaction. The buildings can start to resonate with the frequency of the seismic waves, like a tuning fork. As they sway in unison, their collective motion can actually feed back into the ground, altering and intensifying the shaking. In a way, the entire city can behave like a giant metamaterial that interacts with and modifies the earthquake's energy. So, how do we listen to this complex urban symphony and decipher its secrets? Urban seismology requires a new set of tools. The old method of a few widely spaced seismometers isn't enough. To capture the high-fidelity sound of a city, scientists now deploy dense networks of sensors, sometimes just a few hundred meters apart. One of the most groundbreaking technologies in this field is called Distributed Acoustic Sensing, or DAS. This is pure genius. DAS repurposes the vast network of fiber optic cables that already run beneath our cities for internet and telecommunications. By sending pulses of laser light down a cable and measuring the microscopic back reflections, scientists can detect minute stretches and compressions in the cable caused by passing seismic waves. This effectively turns every few meters of the fiber optic cable into an individual seismic sensor. With millions of kilometers of these cables already in place, DAS is creating monitoring networks of unprecedented density, giving us a live, detailed map of ground motion across an entire city. Of course, this creates an avalanche of data. No team of humans could ever analyze it all manually. This is where machine learning and artificial intelligence come in. AI algorithms are being trained to automatically sift through the noise, detect, and classify different types of seismic signals. They can distinguish between a passing truck, a construction blast, and the subtle telltale signature of a small earthquake. One such algorithm, aptly named the urban denoiser, has been used in the Los Angeles area and has successfully detected 10% more seismic events than traditional methods could, pulling the faint signals of tiny, natural earthquakes out from the overwhelming roar of the city. All this knowledge isn't just academic. It has profound, practical implications for building safer cities. By combining data on local geology, population density, building vulnerability, and the potential for induced quakes, planners can create detailed seismic risk maps. These maps can guide land use planning, pinpointing which areas are most vulnerable and which older buildings are in desperate need of retrofitting. This data also feeds into refining building codes. We can design buildings specifically to withstand the amplified shaking in a sedimentary basin, or to resist the specific frequencies that a particular city might amplify. In areas where induced seismicity is a known risk, like from wastewater injection or geothermal projects, strict regulation and constant monitoring are key. By carefully managing these activities, we can significantly reduce the risk of triggering a damaging earthquake. And finally, public education and emergency preparedness are critical. When residents understand the real risks they face, and when cities have well-practiced emergency response plans, the human and economic toll of an earthquake can be drastically reduced. The field of urban seismology is really just getting started. As our cities grow and our monitoring technology becomes even more sophisticated, we are bound to uncover even more surprising interactions between our urban world and the planet it rests on. That idea of the city as a metamaterial that influences seismic waves is a tantalizing area of research. Could we, one day, intentionally design our cities to dampen or deflect the destructive energy of an earthquake? It sounds like science fiction, but the core principles are being actively explored. What is clear right now is that our cities are not just static collections of concrete and steel. They are complex, dynamic systems in a constant dialogue with the earth. The ground beneath our feet is not a silent stage for our urban drama. It is an active participant, and it is telling us a story every single second. By learning to listen to the city's pulse, we can build safer, more resilient, and more sustainable urban futures. All we have to do is pay attention. Thanks for tuning in to Fun Facts Online.